Thinking is difficult. That's why most people judge. These words from Carl Jung are as true today as they were when he first spoke them. In a world filled with opinions, arguments, and quick judgments, it is easier than ever to see how right Jung was. But what did he really mean? And how can this wisdom inspire us to live better lives? Let's begin by exploring the difference between thinking and judging. True thinking is effortful. It requires us to pause, to reflect, to consider perspectives beyond our own. It asks us to wrestle with complexity, to question our assumptions, and to search for truth even when it makes us uncomfortable. Judgment, on the other hand, is quick. It is effortless. It is reactive. When we judge, we don't reflect, we react. We label others as good or bad, right or wrong, worthy or unworthy. And while judgment feels powerful, it often reveals our weakness, our unwillingness to truly think. Jung believed that one of the great challenges of modern life is the decline of deep, independent thinking. Why? Because thinking is hard. It demands self-discipline. It requires emotional maturity, and it forces us to admit that we might be wrong. Many people would rather stay in the comfort of certainty than step into the discomfort of truth. Consider how often we see this play out in daily life. Someone makes a mistake at work, and immediately they are judged as lazy or incompetent. A neighbor lives differently, dresses differently, or believes differently, and instantly they are judged as strange or wrong. On social media, we see it every day. Instead of dialogue, we see outrage. Instead of curiosity, we see condemnation. Why? Because judgment is easy, thinking is not. But here lies the real danger. When we judge others too quickly, we are often projecting our own hidden insecurities onto them. Jung called this psychological projection. We deny parts of ourselves, the aspects we don't want to face, and instead, we see them in other people. When we judge harshly, it is often a mirror reflecting back the parts of ourselves we are afraid to confront. For example, someone who secretly feels insecure may judge others for being arrogant. Someone who struggles with self-control may quickly judge others for being irresponsible. In truth, our judgments say more about ourselves than they do about the people we judge. This is why Jung believed that judgment without self-reflection keeps us blind. It keeps us from truly knowing ourselves. So what is the alternative? The alternative is to slow down, to replace judgment with thinking, to ask deeper questions. Instead of saying, "This person is wrong," ask, "Why might they see the world this way?" Instead of saying, "They are bad," ask, "What pain or experience might have shaped their behavior?" Instead of rushing to condemn, learn to pause and reflect. This shift is not only about understanding others, it is about transforming yourself. Because every time you choose thinking over judging, you grow. You expand your perspective. You become wiser, calmer, and more compassionate. Jung's insight reminds us that the real challenge of life is not mastering others, but mastering ourselves. When we stop judging blindly and start thinking deeply, we break free from the chains of projection. We begin to see not only others more clearly, but also ourselves. Now, let us reflect on the impact of judgment in society. Wars have been fought, communities divided, and lives destroyed because people found it easier to judge than to think. Prejudice, discrimination, and hate, these are all forms of lazy thinking. They are quick judgments that close the door to understanding. True thinking, on the other hand, opens doors. It builds bridges. It asks us to look at the whole human being, not just the surface. But here is the challenge. Thinking will not always give you easy answers. Sometimes it will leave you in uncertainty. Sometimes it will show you that there is no single truth, but many perspectives. And this is uncomfortable. But it is also where real wisdom begins. To think deeply is to live with complexity, to accept ambiguity, and to walk with humility. Let us make this practical. Imagine the next time someone offends you, annoys you, or disagrees with you. The instinct to judge will rise immediately. But in that moment, pause. Ask yourself, am I reacting or am I thinking? What might I not understand about this person? What in me is being triggered right now? This pause is the gateway to growth. It transforms judgment into insight. It turns conflict into an opportunity for understanding. And let's not forget, thinking deeply is also about yourself. Jung believed that many of us judge others because we avoid thinking about ourselves. Self-reflection is hard. It means asking questions like, why do I feel insecure? What am I running from? What am I afraid to admit about myself? These are not easy questions. They require courage, but they are the very questions that lead us to authenticity and self-knowledge. Thinking is difficult, yes, but it is also rewarding. It allows us to step out of the prison of superficial judgment and into the freedom of wisdom. It teaches us patience, empathy, and humility. And most importantly, it helps us to become more conscious human beings, aware of our shadows, aware of our projections, and aware of the truth that lies beyond appearances. So remember this, thinking may be difficult, but it is worth it, because judgment blinds, while true thinking transforms. And the privilege of your lifetime is not just to live, but to think deeply, courageously, and authentically. Let's bring Jung's wisdom even closer to our everyday lives. Think about the last time someone judged you unfairly. Maybe it was a colleague at work who assumed you were lazy because you left early, not knowing you had a sick child at home. Maybe it was a friend who judged your choices without ever asking about your struggles. Or perhaps it was society itself labeling you for your background, your job, or your appearance. How did it feel? Painful, right? That is the weight of judgment. It reduces us to a label instead of seeing us as a whole human being. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine someone took the time to truly think about your situation. Instead of rushing to conclusions, they paused. They asked questions. They tried to understand your perspective. They thought deeply before reacting. How different would that feel? How healing, how liberating, how human. This is the power of thinking over judging. It is not just philosophy, it is life-changing. The truth is, most conflicts in our world, from small arguments in families to great divisions between nations, begin with judgment, not thinking. When we say, "You are wrong, I am right," without reflection, we close the door to understanding. But when we stop, when we dare to think deeply, suddenly the door opens. We see the other person not as an enemy, but as a human being with fears, hopes, and wounds just like ours. And here's the real challenge Jung leaves us with. Every time you are tempted to judge, you are standing at a crossroads. One road is easy, judgment. The other is harder, thinking. But the harder road is always the one that leads to growth, compassion, and wisdom. So in your daily life, practice this. The next time you feel anger rising, pause. The next time you want to criticize, stop. The next time you're ready to label someone, breathe. Then ask, what else could be true here? What am I not seeing? What would happen if I tried to understand before I judged. This small pause can change your relationships, your career, your community, and even your inner peace. Because every time you choose thinking over judging, you're not just changing your mind, you are shaping the kind of world we all live in. Jung was right. Thinking is difficult. But that difficulty is exactly why it is so powerful. Because those who dare to think deeply rise above the noise of judgment. They live with clarity, compassion, and strength. And in the end, that is what makes life truly meaningful.